connectivity, cloud, data center, AI, it all meshes together and it becomes more interesting. And all of a sudden, the data center industry is not just one unknown monolithic piece of like a building, but it's becomes very, very important and very interesting. And that's how you pique their curiosity, right? Learn the ecosystem. This industry is so vast and it's technical and it evolves so rapidly. And at its core, what is it about, right? Let's think about what is it about. It's speed and it's scale and it's connectivity and it's enabling trust in this digital world. So it's Angela Adam from eStruxture Data Centers, and you are watching the Data Center Go-to-Market podcast.
Hi, it's Joshua Feinberg, host of the Data Center Go-to-Market podcast. And I'm thrilled to be welcoming a very special guest. Joining me today is Angela Adam, who is SVP of Sales and Marketing of eStruxture, Canada's largest independently owned data center operator, headquartered in Montreal with data center facilities throughout Canada. Angela, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much, Joshua. Thank you for the invitation. It's a pleasure.
Oh, you're welcome. And I'm very much looking forward to our chat today. What would be super helpful for me to understand a little bit more is how you ended up in your current role, leading revenue, leading the commercial side of eStruxture. Was this something that you've always thought about in your career? Were you thinking of a career in technology when you were growing up and thinking about what to do in school? Or were there some steps that happened along the way that led you to this place?
I love that question. So no, the quick answer is no. I've not been one of those children who always dreamed to work in technology. I studied literature. My dream was to read books. So I graduated with a degree in reading books, literature. But I've always been fascinated by technology and learning the language and understanding all of the intricacies. And so my career kind of led me this way. And the way that I eventually ended up in the data center industry was purely serendipity. I had a background I had moved into software. And then one day I got a call from someone at eStruxture asking me if I would like to join this fantastic new startup that's going to take the Canadian data center industry by storm. And so it did. And so I ended up here. My first instinct, though, I'll be honest, was to say, well, I don't know if I want to move into this telecom branch of the industry because I put everything under telecom. It just doesn't seem exciting enough. Coming from media entertainment and software, where I found it very, very exciting and glamorous. And then I always say this, I just went online and I looked, data center CAGR. And then I pick up the phone and I said, well, actually, I'm changing my mind. Now I understand what the industry does, the fact that it's at the core of the digital world. And that changed everything for me. And if you ask me now, I'll be 100% honest. I will never move out of the industry. There's so much opportunity. There's so many great minds. We're at the forefront of so much technological advancement. And like I said, we're the backbone of everything we do in the digital world. So for me, this has become the career and the industry of my dreams.
That's fabulous. What's super interesting too is your initial reaction when you're approached by eStruxture is you're thinking of them at the time as like telecom related, because some data center operators are positioned more on the real estate side. Some
That's
are
right.
positioned more on like managed services. Some are positioned a lot more closely to like telecom and the meet me, internet exchange, carrier neutrality kind of world. So that your initial perception was telecom focus?
That's right. It was, and at the time when I joined, and I was 6-7 years ago, in Canada at least, we had several telecom companies who were developing a data center practice, right? Which in some cases didn't last very long. So my immediate reaction is like, oh, it's the telecom world. So like you said, it was just a bit of a different environment. And eStruxture is a pure colo owner and operator. So that's a bit of a different flavor.
So you started more on the broader technology side, on the software side, and then moved into data center operations, like in the world of colocation and everything that goes along with that. With all of that in mind, what advice would you give to someone that's earlier on in their career, high school, college age? They've heard a little bit about data centers. If they haven't heard about it, more than likely their parents have heard about it and are saying, that could be interesting. We're watching everything that's going on with NVIDIA and all the great, amazing growth that's been going on in this space. What advice would you offer to someone that's maybe in their teens or early 20s that's thinking about this kind of career that's less technical? Maybe they majored in something like humanities, like literature. They don't see themselves being a developer engineer. What have you learned along the way that you think would be especially useful over coffee or breakfast in that scenario?
I would say just be relentlessly curious on how it all ties together, right? Because many times it all ends up being tied to technology, the cloud. Where does all this data that we're producing, where's this video game that I'm playing now hosted? How am I enabled, to store the photos that I'm taking and I'm sending to my high school friends? Where are they stored? What's happening? And then once I think, and I have children of my own, and once they get to understand how it all connects together, all of a sudden this whole connectivity, cloud, data center, AI, it all meshes together and it becomes more interesting. And all of a sudden, the data center industry is not just one unknown monolithic piece of like a building, but it's becomes very, very important and very interesting. And that's how you pique their curiosity, right? Learn the ecosystem. This industry is so vast and it's technical and it evolves so rapidly. And at its core, what is it about, right? Let's think about what is it about. It's speed and it's scale and it's connectivity and it's enabling trust in this digital world. So if you can pick their curiosity from this angle, I think there's a real opportunity to get these young people to consider pursuing a career or at least an interest in the data center industry. It all has to be tied back to what they know, what they use, and just show that value. And again, I think it's for anybody at any age and in any industry, just be curious.
Yeah, that's super interesting, even contextualizing it with thinking about it from your own kid's perspective, because I also have teens, early teens and late teens that are at the stage where they're thinking about this, one of which is, I believe, doing an elective in school right now on career choice. And there's a lot of non-intuitive parts of digital infrastructure and data centers that people don't think about. The first couple of years, I first discovered this space around 2012, 2013, 2014. In the first year or two coming from the IT services world, I understood that part well. The technology side, I understood the operators, but I had no idea about facilities and construction and real estate and investment. But yeah, you're totally, if someone is showing interest in finance, there's a huge need for that. If someone's interested in construction, there is a huge need for that. If they're thinking real estate is fascinating to them, there's a need for that.
That's right. Or
generators, energy.
Yeah, exactly. But even adjacent industry, because I came from media entertainment, the reason that I got this phone call is because eStruxture has a vast ecosystem of media entertainment customers, so I could speak their language. But think of a child who is a, gamer, could go into a, rev gen role because they would be able to speak the language and sell to that customer in a very consultative manner, right? They will understand the needs so much better. And they'll, to me, that's, we can, if we want to, we can tie it back to our ecosystem in various ways.
There was a point 3-4 years ago where everyone was spending a ton of time at home. And I remember one time showing one of my kids who at the time was probably doing a lot of Roblox and Fortnite kind of stuff. I think there was a job post at some point that I saw on my LinkedIn feed. Someone hiring for channel partner ecosystem development at one of the, I think it was Roblox. Like, see, they even have channel partner ecosystem development on the gaming platform that you and your friends like to spend all this time
That's
on.
right. That's right. I will tell you that every now and then I'll get one of my kids come in, because I work from home, and they'll hear me talk to customers, talk about customers, talk to my colleagues, strategize, and they'll pick up some things and they'll come and tell me, hey, did you think about this company as a target customer? And a lot of times I haven't.
It's amazing that they know, like, that you're dialed into thinking about target customers. There was something going around LinkedIn in the video feed last week about asking your family members about what they think you did, what they think you do at work. And it was like asking kids of all different ages, asking siblings, asking parents, some of which are like long retired, like, what do I do? And some of them got it right.
That is actually a good exercise.
There's a version of that too that I've seen a lot of people in tech companies run, where they get together, their whole team, or they get together company-wide retreats, and they go around and like, okay, we're gonna ask every person in the company, what does eStruxture do? And you compare and contrast. You're like, okay, are we as 100%? If random person who works outside of marketing and sales was at an event and a colleague asked them, would it be the same answer, or is there GTM work to do on alignment?
Yeah, this is actually a fascinating exercise. I might actually implement it. I like it.
So, given what you figured out along the way, if you were to bump into someone that you worked with 10 years ago, back when you were in the software space at an event or at an airport or something like that, and you used to be really close, and you sense that they were a little bit burned out, they were trying to figure out what the next chapter of their career should look like. When you knew them, they were doing something on the commercial side, like product or channel partnerships or account management or something, and they were looking for some advice to reboot. What would you suggest?
Focus on value creation, not on necessarily finding a new job or preserving the job that you have, or just understand where you can bring value. And depending on the industry, but if you think about in our industry, if you've been around for 15, 20 years, it would be easy to just rest on what you've always done and seek a similar role or try to make this one better. But it's also, you have to be cognizant that the industry, all of industries, are transforming, changing things. Sustainability awareness is changing things, and our industry, edge is changing things. So the roles that we were hired for in 10, 15 years ago have to be redefined. So we have to redefine ourselves. So we need to ask ourselves, what can I do to lead in this next wave, knowing what I know? Can I be using the information that I have? Can I be an advisor? Can I help customers transition from, let's take sustainability, to a more sustainable design? Maybe that's what I'm good at. Can I teach the next generation of, since this is a go-to-market podcast, can I teach the next generation of sales and marketers to understand through relationship-based selling, so that they can integrate that with more like the automated part of this game. There's always somewhere that you can find value in what we do and apply it to what the industry needs right now. Again, pivot towards value creation. That would be my advice at any stage in the career.
So a lot of that depends on keeping your skills sharp enough to understand the market trends, to see how you can potentially add value, and really being your own career coach, your own personal CEO of sorts, as people often talk about.
Yeah, I like the personal CEO analogy. It's true. We need to learn self-leadership, and we need to, like I said, sharpen the tools all the time. There is no other choice, in my opinion, not at the pace that the world is evolving right now.
Which part of the speed of change do you find most challenging? Is it keeping your team up with changes? Is it aligning with other stakeholders outside of sales and marketing in your team? Is it different ecosystems throughout Canada? Are there certain niches that are more difficult to keep up with than others? What have you found to be the most challenging part of all of this change?
I would say is trying to get alignment throughout the company and understand the needs, the current needs and the changing needs of the customers, and understanding that we need to flex with their needs at all levels. It's not just sales and marketing and ops, it's design. Across the value chain, we all need to flex with what the customer needs, and their needs change in real time. And sometimes they're not able to articulate what it is that they need. So in order for us to keep that trusted advisor status, we need to have an understanding internally that we need to remain flexible. And again, going back to, if you've been in the industry 15, 20 years, you have a certain manner of thinking, right? And if you're not willing to change, then that's going to make your job a lot harder. Our advantage has always been that we've always been entrepreneurial. We're a young company, so adaptability has always been the DNA. And one of the reasons that I really, really like my role, and I really like growing the company and growing with the company, is because we're able to adapt. And to me, this is just the basis of everything. Everybody in the company needs to understand we need to adapt and we need to flex with what the customer wants. So, but again, it's hard. As the ship gets bigger, it's a bit harder to steer, right?
I'm really interested to dig a little more too into that client centricity and the trusted advisor part. You're at eStruxture now 6-7 years. You joined at a time late 2010s, right before the pandemic. It's always been a goal of people in mid-market and enterprise technology sales to be a trusted advisor, like literally going back decades. But it seems in the self-driven journey where so many highly technical buyers want to do so much research on their own before they get to you, has that trend, has trusted advisor gone from like a nice to have to must have? Has it altered the kind of people that you recruit and join and mentor, and kind of like the internal reskilling and learning and development? Has that changed much in the last 5 years? Or do you feel that you, as an entrepreneurial company, were already pretty far ahead of that?
We were built on the basis of that we wanted to be the trusted advisor in terms of digital infrastructure in Canada. So that was ingrained in us. But did it change? I think it did. I think it did because I'm seeing not only the enterprise customers and mid-market, but also the hyperscalers and the AI companies and the GPU as a service becoming more and more selective about the infrastructure partners that they choose. It's not, remember that we used to say a lot, build it and they would come, right? They will come. I'm going to take a risk here, but I don't actually believe that still stands today. And if you don't work on continuing to build those relationships, to reinforce your status as a trusted advisor, then you're not going to win at this job. At the end of the day, we all sell space, power, and cooling with a few other big or small differentiators. But if you don't have the trust and the relationship building skill and the ability to adapt and really understand and speak your customer's language, then you're going to fall behind. So I know many providers still lean a little bit too heavily on tech specifications and maybe the legacy relationships that they had, instead of really focusing on what the customer needs and what is the business outcome, what is the value that we're creating, and how can we build this trust, right? It's not, if you're selling with square footage and PUE in your customer conversation, but the customer is really asking, can you help me enter this new market faster? Can you adapt with this, my new AI workload? Can you help me reach my sustainability goals? Then you'll see a bit of a rift, right?
I've noticed a lot of really interesting parallels and convergence between colocation operators and managed service providers over the last 10 years. In the early 2000s, relatively early stages of my career, I spent a lot of time working with MSPs and IT consultancies who wanted to emulate the kind of relationship that CPAs and attorneys had with their small business clients. So they wanted to be trusted advisors. I think we're at the stage now as those kinds of companies and colocation operators have faced a lot of commoditization pressures and stressed around differentiating. I see a lot of colocation operators hiring AEs who are so strong technically that they could almost have a nights and weekends gig as a fractional CTO to SMBs. Are you seeing the emergence of that trend? Are you seeing people on your team that you hire that are technical enough that they could almost be working as an IT advisor to small businesses?
Oh yes, and we encourage that. We believe in cross training a lot and making sure that when we onboard, either we hire someone with the profile, but if we hire a newcomer, we believe so much in getting to meet everybody across the organization, doing that job shadowing, asking the right questions. So take the example of a new sales employee that we would ask to ensure that they get to know, operations, and that they shadow engineering, that they shadow products, so that when they step into their role, their tools are sharp. They can come in and have a conversation that's not just about selling space and power. It's about solving a complex infrastructure issue. So yes, to your point, I think we will be shifting that way. Either we'll hire the talent that already has this tool, or we will train them in that direction. I think it's hugely important.
With that in mind, a general trend that I'm seeing a lot of operators too is specializing team members by roles to give them more leverage in their prospect or client relationships. Has that come up yet, where you're segmenting that there's certain reps that tend to call on like SMB accounts versus mid-market or enterprise, or potentially segmenting vertical?
Right.
Like you mentioned, based on your career trajectory, based on your LinkedIn, that you'd have superpowers calling on software accounts, you'd have superpowers calling on higher education or telecommunications. Is it getting to the point where a lot of your team members seem like they really should focus on one or two verticals so they can get really deep on that knowledge and those relationships to gain outsized leverage?
100%. You're 100% spot on. We have our reps focus on different verticals, especially the ones that are in the business development roles. There are professionals that are more in tune and are more specialized on the AI workloads and the GPU as a service, and they're very well immersed in that whole ecosystem, and they can speak the language. We have a representative who has a huge network in the media entertainment, just like I do, and understands the rendering services, gaming, what do they need, VFX, what do they need. So who works with who? Where's the workload fluctuation at? As you know, that the M&E is a very kind of cyclical industry. So I am a firm believer that it is much more valuable to have individuals that are specialized per vertical, that can understand and speak the language. It brings so much more credibility. And again, you solve a problem. You don't just sell your product. You solve a product, speaking their own language, understanding their particular issues, understanding who the players are, being able to see the trends, being able to draw connections. So you're much more credible salesperson or a marketer when you know your niche or you know your industry.
Actually, it's an interesting strategy planning customer insights exercise as well. If you think about like when you're building out a buyer persona and you're understanding the language and the goals and the challenges, and you understand the watering holes where they learn, the conferences that they go to, the certifications they have. So the question is that
exactly,
like, at what point are they totally internalizing that, where they're saying this particular buyer persona has these 5 certifications and goes to these 8 conferences. So maybe part of it is like, okay, we're not going to get all 5 of them and we'll get the entry level versions of that, but maybe we should show up looking a little bit more like an entry level person that would work in that kind of company.
100%. And one of the things that you just mentioned, one of the things that we always do, and our teams always, when we have a conversation, we always like to ask, like, what's the next event that you're going to be attending? Where is your team going to have a presence? We always write that down. And then when we do our yearly event planning, is based on where our customers are showing up. You're going to know this. We're just going to ask the question.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic advice.
The Data Center Go-to-Market podcast is sponsored by DCSMI, elevating the role of sales, marketing, and go-to-market GTM professionals in the growth of the data center industry. To stay informed about upcoming episodes, make sure that you subscribe to the Data Center Sales and Marketing newsletter on the DCSMI website that can be found at www.dcsmi.com. Again, that URL is www.dcsmi.com.
Angie, when you look at the ecosystem as a whole across Canada, what do you think is the most universal challenge, the most universal struggle that the kinds of companies that are clients of eStruxture are dealing with right now?
Right now, I think we're still going through a digital transformation, right? And we're perhaps a little bit a few years behind the US, but companies are still making decisions whether they keep their workload on-prem, or if it's a hybrid solution, or if they go all into colo. And we're there to support them and consult and mentor them into the right solution. And sometimes the right solution is not going to be colo. It may just be cloud, and we have no problem advising them as such. And then the other issue that I would see is just, and this is across the globe, for the larger companies, it's really scalability, which right now it's still an issue, right? We still cannot build as fast as we would love to. We build pretty fast, especially because we're only Canadian focused. This is the market that we know, and that's kind of that's speed and scalability is our thing. But even so, faced with the demand that we have from the larger companies, the cloud providers, the GPU as a service, like I said, the AI companies that need massive scale and power now, it's a bit of a kind of trying to face that demand with the realities of the power constraints that we have. So perhaps the workloads that need to be deployed in 6 months will need to wait for 9 months, and we need to be able to be there for our customers and figure out how we're going to get them to at least deploy. Maybe it's a ramp, maybe it's a bit of a delay, but this is what I currently see in the market.
So it sounds like you and your team members are spending a lot of time in pre-sales consulting and helping to serve as project managers and advisors on how to approach their business needs, technology needs, transformation needs to stay competitive.
Yeah, and that's always been our approach, right? We want to be the trusted advisor, and we want to live up to that goal that we set for ourselves from the beginning, and it's worked out for us. It also works out that we are only Canadian focused, and this is the market that we know.
I'm curious, and I think a lot of our readers and viewers would be curious as well as to how your team is organized, who the different kinds of team members are that contribute to sales and marketing at eStruxture, and how you fit in with the rest of eStruxture. Can you talk through a little bit about how that's set up?
Yeah, so we have, when we think of go-to-market, we really think holistically of everybody who has a hand in bringing the message to the customer. So we work very tightly with product, with our SE. We work very tightly with customer support and customer enablement. Obviously, marketing and sales are one engine. I've never believed that they're two different departments, and I don't think anybody can convince me otherwise. So we tend to, when we do our planning, we try to pull in everybody's experience from their interactions, their point of view, what they see in terms of trends, and then make a decision as to how we're showing up to the market and to our customers. And obviously, when we're talking about the larger deployments, we involve a lot engineering. Their expertise is amazing, and they will be able to arm us with the right information so that we do show up to our customers as that trusted consultant, trusted advisor. So I would say we work hand in hand with everybody across the board to be able to tell a compelling story to the market.
That's super interesting to see holistically how that's all built, and really insightful as well about the need for marketing and sales to be really tightly integrated, as opposed to two silos arguing about who gets credit and who gets resources.
You can debate me on that if you want.
Yeah. No, I definitely won't. I'm totally with you on that. I actually argue for the side that there's a lot more functions in most data center related companies that need marketing support beyond just sales. There's usually product and channel part. Even HR usually needs content and events to support what they're doing. So especially as we move into this world where so much of it is self-service.
Yeah,
that's another interesting trend we've noticed as well, is that on the entry level points of the market, especially with some really small SMBs, is the whole idea that they want to go through the whole journey themselves and self-sign up. Is it something you've dealt with much at eStruxture so far? Are you seeing significant demand on entry-level colocation for people that want to buy like e-commerce without much sales interaction?
Yes, I've seen not so much lately. It used to be maybe 5-6 years ago. And I think it's because we now have so many data center marketplaces. There's so many marketplaces that do a great job at aggregating all of the capacity, all of the operator data, and then providing the customer that wants to self-serve with different options. Sometimes different, they'll even have comparative pricing. And but what we're seeing with where our customers come in direct, it's less and less a need to self-serve or get a quote right off the bat. They will want to speak to a human. But again, I think it's because of the emergence of the data center marketplaces, or at least that's my speculation.
So you're seeing that as the marketplaces grow, that there's even more interest in being able to have that human connection and being able to get feedback from your team members as a differentiator from the self-service marketplaces?
I think so. I think it's invaluable, having someone advise you and sometimes kind of tell you what you don't know, what you need to look after. I think it's invaluable. There's only so much information that you can get on your own, right? There's a vast amount of information, but there's only so much that you can trust everything. So sometimes it's all the customer really needs is just someone that they can trust, that can guide them through different options, and then they can make up their mind. Again, there's so much information, so much choice out there.
Do you Does eStruxture have a significant investment in channel partner ecosystems? Are you seeing a lot of like integrators and consultancies and MSPs that are interested in bringing clients into eStruxture? Is that a significant part of your marketing sales services engine, or are most of your clients preferring direct?
We have a very robust channel program. We work very well with the MSP and ISP types. But we're also working a lot more with our real estate agents that we've had relationships for many, many years, and they've been doing really, really great work for us. And recently, we're getting more and more traction with the master agents. They're doing fantastic work. They have such a wide reach. A lot of them have dedicated data center practice with really fantastic consultants that will get to the market really, really fast. So I'm a really, really big believer in the channel and enabling the channel to tell your story to as many customers as possible. So I will always dedicate time and effort into growing part of our go-to-market strategies, and we see a lot of interest come that way.
Yeah, it seems from what we're seeing anecdotally in the last 12 to 18 months, it seems to have picked up a tremendous amount of steam among data center operators of doubling, tripling down on their channel partner ecosystem investments. There may be a number of causes behind it, like capital markets changes, economic pressure, acceleration, growth. But yeah, it seems like in the late 2010s, if there were people that were predicting that channel and reseller models were going to change, and yeah, they for sure have changed, but it seems in general that we're seeing a lot more interest about growing this growth engine for a lot of data center operators is all the different kinds of partners they work with and enablement and figuring out how that becomes a core part of the strategy.
Oh, 100%. We have to enable the channel, and I think it's going to become such a huge growth engine for everybody in the industry. I'm certainly seeing it for eStruxture.
Angie, how do you think your role leading sales and marketing for eStruxture may change over the next 2, 3, 4 years as you look into your crystal ball? What do you see staying the same? What do you see shifting?
That's a good question. I don't know, at the pace that everything is evolving, it's difficult to make predictions, right? But I think it's going to become a lot more outcome based, a lot more AI intelligence driven. So I think our go-to-market and my own strategy is going to be a lot more aligned with AI-driven insights. I am going to be able to take advantage a lot more of predictive analytics. The message and how we go to market is going to become hyper-personalized. And like I said, I think we're going to shift a lot more towards value and outcome-based models. So we're going to change our narrative and go talk about, tailored solution to meet specific business objectives that our customers have, rather than, again, selling capacity and space. So I think my own role is going to change in that I'll have a lot more information at my fingertips to be able to predict the needs and the trends a lot better so that I can inform the business and my team. I'm a big believer in automation and in finding the value in the new and emerging technology to enable us to become more strategic, faster, more efficient, and obviously grow our business faster and more sustainably.
So with these personalized insights in the automation, does it get to the point where we are right now, specializing in healthcare is good enough, but in 2, 3, 4 years, it's not healthcare. We've zoomed in and we've said it's healthcare, specifically in our Toronto market, specifically in companies with 50 to 500 employees that are venture backed and have these 3 leading indicators in their tech stack.
That is exactly what I think that we're going to move. And we see a lot of tools that are emerging now that are giving us some of that information, right? That being able to narrow down the specific needs for this type of customer or this type of customer, that are able to inform us, for example, when there's been a change in, rate of employment at a customer. What does that mean? If a specific, contact has moved from one company to another, what does that mean? How do we engage? But like in a couple of years, we're going to take it a step further, where I think technology and AI is going to become, from reactive to proactive, where I can see it getting an alarm saying, hey, this contact has moved to this company. It's time to engage with them in this way. And here's a message, right? It's conceivable.
And then it looks at the downstream impact as well of knowing that there's almost certainly going to be changes 3 or 4 levels down below that and potentially trickling throughout that ecosystem.
Yeah. Anyways, it's an exciting question. It's an exciting future to think about, for sure. We should have this conversation in 2 years to see if
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's one of the biggest challenges for this kind of role, is that you're going 100 miles an hour, 160, going a lot of kilometers. You're going very, very fast on the technology roadmap. And at the same time,
very fast.
The demands of your prospects and your clients have never been more intense, for like always on 7/24, 365. Angie, why do your team members, why are they not available at 3:00 on a Sunday afternoon on a holiday weekend?
Yes.
Come on, everyone's available. Amazon's available. Why aren't you? It's like, so this, I always talk about like Veruca Salt from the Willy Wonka movie. Like, I don't care how, I just want it now. It's like the toddler attention span. Like, this is the expectation. So the question is like, how do you deliver on that? Stay competitive with having some semblance of work-life balance. So this has all been really insightful to learn more about your career path, what brought you into the data center space, your advice and insights for people that are early on in their career and mid-career, what you're seeing with the challenges among Canadian businesses, how eStruxture is helping to find solutions to that, how you're growing your team, where you think all of this is going. If someone wants to learn more about what you're working on or connect with you, learn more about eStruxture, is LinkedIn the best place to start?
LinkedIn is a great place, or they can go straight to our website, eStruxture.com. And if they're so inclined and want to reach out to me directly, it's angelaadam@eStruxture.com.
Awesome. We'll include links to those in the blog post and the show notes for anyone that wants to learn more. But this has been really, really interesting, insightful. It's very clear that not only your company is on the leading edge of transformation throughout Canada, but you're also personally on the leading edge of implementing world-class go-to-market and what it means for showing up as trusted advisors, focusing on consultative selling, and just adding a ton of value throughout the process. Angie, I really appreciate you joining me today on the Data Center Go-to-Market podcast.
Thank you so much for the invite. Have a great day.
The Data Center Go-to-Market podcast is sponsored by DCSMI, elevating the role of sales, marketing, and go-to-market GTM professionals in the growth of the data center industry. To stay informed about upcoming episodes, make sure that you subscribe to the Data Center Sales and Marketing newsletter on the DCSMI website that can be found at www.dcsmi.com. Again, that URL is www.dcsmi.com.